with you. We've got, I know if you're online, you can't see everybody today because Nathan is here as our presenter. And since he's going to be teaching us sign language, we wanted to make sure that you would be able to see his hands. But Josh and Julia, right? Not Julie. Julia.
Yeah.
And Addie are here with us, as well as Mr. Mark and Mr. Tom. And online, I know we have Lucas and Ava and Nora and Will and Jason? Jason, yes. So welcome, and I will invite you to pray with me as we begin tonight. God of grace and hope, you show up for us every day in many ways. Lead us in our lives. Remind us that you are there for us. Help us to form our stories into your story. And bless us as we do this work together. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So in case you don't know who Nathan is, he is the fearless leader of our deaf ministry here at Prince of Peace. And he's going to share his story with us today. So thanks for being here, Nathan.
So I would like to say, first of all, my name's Nathan, and some of you have already known me. I am very grateful to be here tonight, and thank you, Pastor Ann, for inviting me to talk to everybody tonight here in person and on Zoom. And welcome aboard online. Good to see all of you. And I go around talking about my story of my hearing loss. I share my story with lots of people throughout the community, surrounding community, other Lutheran churches. Share my story, provide deaf awareness. It's been very, very touching for me to share with people, and people are very touched with my story. So I'm glad to be here tonight and share my story. And then once I share my story, I'm going to open the floor up for questions, and then we'll teach some basic sign language and also do the Lord's Prayer in sign language, which is pretty cool. So while I talk tonight, I want you guys to keep the questions in your mind. If you ever had doubters in your life, if you ever had people that they know you can't do it and that they don't believe you could do it, if you ever had people tell you things that you cannot do it because of who you are, if you ever had the motivation to prove people wrong by showing them that you can actually do it, with all these questions that I'm asking you, please keep that in your mind as I talk, because maybe you have been through this experience. All of these questions that I ask, I've been through all of this in my entire life. I've had lots of people tell me that I can't do things because I'm deaf. Because of that, I was so motivated to prove people wrong many different ways of showing them that I can actually do it. And I love to prove people wrong. I have been living my life going through the hard way. Have you ever heard of the hard way slogan? The hard way slogan all comes from the NIU football team. The hard way slogan is the trademark by the football team. It's all about not giving up. It's all about believing in each other and believing in myself, believing in yourself. Proving all the doubters wrong, proving all the critics wrong. rising yourself up to exposure and becoming well known. Overcoming many difficult obstacles. That's what the NAU football team is all about with the Hard Way slogan. With the Hard Way slogan, it truly relates to myself. I believe that slogan has become a personal meaning to me because I feel related to it. Because it has truly defined myself of who I am throughout my whole life. I lived my life the hard way by overcoming so many obstacles and proving lots of people wrong without giving up. I just kept motivating myself and fighting to prove people wrong. So I was born in 1982, and I was born with an auditory nerve block. That was where I was automatically deaf. My hearing loss was not discovered until 18 months old. My mom thought that something was going on with me where Nathan's not responding to sounds, Nathan's not responding to name calling, Nathan's not responding to knocks on the door, Nathan's not responding to anything. So my mom took pans out of the kitchen. She stood up behind me, and I was just sitting on the floor playing with my toys. Bang, pans loud as possible. I was not responding to the noise because obviously I was not hearing the noise at all. I didn't hear anything. I didn't feel anything to be able to react to the sound. So the next step was my mom and dad took me to audiologist for a hearing test just to verify my hearing and see if I was deaf or not. And of course, my audiogram turned out that I was truly deaf. So we worked step on what's gonna happen to me as I move on with my life. I began wearing hearing aids at 18 months old, right after I found out about my hearing loss. And of course, lots of people think that when it comes to wearing hearing aids, boom, that's gonna solve your hearing problems. No. I had a long way to go in my life. I was about to experience my life by going the hard way with my hearing loss. I had to learn how to react to the sound, how to pick up to the sound, how to react to someone calling my name or someone knocking on the door, things like that. Learn about how to react to sound. Oh, like for example, with hearing aids that I first got, if someone was calling my name, it would be like sound coming this ear and sound coming the other ear. That was the way it was when I was not able to react to sound when I got hearing aids for the first time. So I had to learn how to listen. While I had to learn how to listen, I had to learn English language, and I had to learn sign language. All really 3 different things I had to learn about. I began talking at 3.5 years old, and believe it or not, before all of this happened, there was a preschool teacher of mine that said, Nathan will never speak in his life because of his deafness. He's not even talking before 3.5 years old. Nathan's never going to talk in his life. Believe it or not, thankfully, I began talking at 3.5 years old. And from that time to junior high, I took speech therapy. And speech therapy would follow me through the 3 days a week, half hour to an hour each section. speech therapy, there was so many up and downs. It was so hard for me. I had to learn how to pronounce words with letter S and F at the beginning or at the end. And also, not only that was hard, I also had a hard time with SH or TH at the end of the word or the beginning of the word. When I was developing language, sign language, and speech therapy, I went to preschool with all other deaf kids who were going through the similar situations that I was going in my life. In the preschool classes were teachers and teachers' aides who all signed to us. And I attended, when I attended elementary school, I took these deaf classes with the same classmates from preschool. These classes were very, very slow learning. And it took a lot longer for me to develop language, vocabulary, and other subjects with the class and other kids because it was a slow learning pace. And then in junior high, I began mainstreaming in elective classes, art classes, PE classes, where we were hearing kids, and I had sign language interpreters there. And then I still took deaf classes like algebra, history, science, English. And these classes were still slow learning, slow pace. And in time, I was still behind on vocabulary because it was just a slow pace, just like baby steps. And then as I became older in junior high, I started to understand what I'm going through in my life. I started to understand better about my hearing loss and what I'm going through in my life. I realized that I've been labeling myself as a hard of hearing person instead of a deaf person. One day in junior high, there was a teacher that was introducing me to another teacher or a student worker, student teacher, or whatever. She was introducing me saying, Nathan is deaf. I didn't like being called deaf back then. I did not like that. So I ran into another teacher, a former teacher of mine, and told her about that situation, and she told me the reason why I was being introduced as deaf was because this teacher was looking at my audiogram. My audiogram showed that I'm deaf. And I don't like to be called a deaf because really, if you look at me, I truly function like a hard of hearing person. The word deaf is more defined as mute, no ability to vocalize, no ability to hear at all. Hard of hearing is another way of being defined as hearing some, not hear some, and have some kind of ability to vocalize and talk. So I told the teacher, I went up to the teacher later on, I told her, please, if you ever introduce me to someone, please don't call me deaf. Please call me hard of hearing. She did not like that. She wanted to label me as hearing impaired. I don't like the word hearing impaired, but I let it slide. So, okay, good enough. So as I moved on to the high school, I was in a similar situation where I took some mainstream classes and bumped up classes. That was for the first 2 years in high school. And then I started thinking the big picture down the road about going to college and everything. Junior year, senior year, I completely mainstreamed out. I took every single class with a sign language interpreter there. That's a way of getting myself prepared for college. But it was so hard because still I was behind on the language and vocabulary. It just took a long time for me to catch up. So I was very thankful for teachers to stay with me after school and do some classes, do some tutoring with me. And with that help, it really helped me be able to graduate high school by doing it the hard way. So before I graduated high school, I had two deaf teachers pointed out to me, Nathan, you are not going to be successful in college. Absolutely no way you're going to be able to graduate college because of who you are. It's because of the long language I had, the low vocabulary, and that I'm so far behind with the learning and everything. With comments like that, it bothers me so much. With the negative comments like that, it showed that there was no faith in my future to be successful. Their comments became so personal to me. But if you think about this, the comments, not only because it was so negative, I looked at it as a way of motivating me. Because I had the desire and passion to prove people wrong. I wanted to prove these teachers wrong. Not only that, I had a primary goal of getting a college degree. I had set up a personal goal of mine, is to prove these teachers wrong. I believed in myself. I believed that I had the ability to do anything and that I can prove them wrong and be able to graduate with a college degree. As I was on a personal goal of proving these teachers wrong, I'm going to do it the hard way. I went to a community college to begin my college career. I went to Rock Valley College in Rockford, Illinois. That's where I grew up at. I grew up in Rockford, which is an hour west of us. It took a little bit longer for me to finish Rock Valley College because I was taking below 101 level developmental classes. I took lots of tutoring sessions to be able to help me. All of my classes had note takers and sign language classes. Sign language interpreter. And that was all provided through the college. And I was very, very active at the college, working for the student newspapers. I was a sports writer, I was a sports editor, managing editor, and an editor-in-chief. People across the campus have said, your newspaper is never going to be successful and not going to win a newspaper award in the state of Illinois because a deaf guy is running the newspaper. believe it or not, because of the strong supporting group that works for me at my time as an editor-in-chief, my newspaper was ranked first in the overall excellence awards and layout category during my time as editor-in-chief. It was a great feeling to prove these people wrong as I was doing it the hard way. It took me 4 hard working years to finally be able to graduate Rock Valley College, an associate in arts degree. I knew in myself that I could graduate college and that I could get a college degree. But I felt like I could prove these high school teachers wrong by doing more. I wanted to continue doing it the hard way. I wanted to make my lifetime dream come true by going to NIU. Going to NIU was the best learning experience, the best life experience that I ever gone through. Not that I only became a die-hard NIU football fan with season tickets every year. I love NIU with all my heart. NIU is truly in my blood. The university means so much to me. Everyone at NIU was so good to me. They all helped me because they all wanted me to be successful. They do whatever I need to be successful. They helped me by providing the accommodations, resources, everything. And while I was there, I was the vice president of Deaf Pride, which was a student organization promoting deaf awareness and deaf culture across the university campus and the surrounding area of NIU. And I also served as a student on the Student with Disability Advisory Board, the campus, to help improve accessibility to the school and surrounding. I graduated NIU after 2.5 years. I earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in art. It was truly an icing on the cake because now I have two college degrees under my name. I succeeded my personal goal by proving these high school teachers wrong again. 2 college degrees, that's what I'm talking about. With this is the biggest reason why I relate myself to the hard way slogan that NIU had. I never gave up. I believed in myself. I kept going. As I served myself with pride after getting 2 college degrees, I continued myself through the working world by doing the hard way. During 10 summer years of high school and college years, I worked at the water park in Rockford, Magic Waters Water Park. I was doing maintenance and groundskeeping. I had a supervisor come up to me and told me, "Boy, Nathan, you work really hard on the job. You do one heck of a job. But you are never going to get promoted because you cannot be able to function with a radio walkie-talkie. And there's no way you're going to become a supervisor, no way you're going to become higher up." Being told like that was not right for me. No way. So I spoke with higher up supervisors, told them about what happened. did was totally unacceptable to these people when I told them about it. So they made corrections and talked about, okay, we need to make this happen. We need to give Nathan a promotion. So I got promoted to become a supervisor without needing a radio walkie-talkie on the job. So for the last 5 years, it went smooth for me. The job went well for me. Good enough. I worked in a factory for about 10 months, 12 months. And of course, I got laid off. So I thought, okay, I'm going to move over this way because my wife, who was my girlfriend back then, we were engaged back then. She lived in this area. I thought, okay, I'm going to come here, look for a job here, and then we're going to live here. I got turned down in so many different jobs I applied for. A lot of warehouse jobs did not want to hire me because the forklift moving around, they do this for safety reasons. I totally get it. I totally understand that safety is all about priority. Keeping people safe, keeping me safe. I totally get it. But at the same time, I felt like that was not fair. It's not fair for me to be given a chance for a job. And I did not have a job for 1.5 years. Thankfully, I'm just so blessed that I had a family friend who provided me a temporary job to work in her department. That was about 11 years ago, and then I finally became a permanent worker for the company that I still at. And I moved into a permanent, long-term basis. And now I'm a telematics product supervisor at Power Solutions International. It's an industrial engine company that makes engines for generators, forklifts, bobcats, anything. Anything from a 2-liter engine to a 53-liter engine. This company is in Woodville, Itasca, and Hanover Park. I work in the Itasca office, and I have been with the company for 11 years now. PSI, that's my company name. PSI has been so good to me. They've made lots of accommodations for me. Like I work in an office with doors closed and locks. They have made a doorbell for me where sometimes I can't hear people knock because people don't knock loud enough. That doorbell is very loud. It's got flashing light in my office. And besides that, I heavily use face-to-face communication, email, text messaging to be able to communicate with my coworkers and customers. And like right now, I'm still working. I'm working from home during this pandemic. What's been really awesome for me is I'm on Microsoft Teams for meetings. Microsoft Teams has automated closed captioning. Oh my goodness, that has benefited me so well. And I prefer that software over Zoom because Zoom does not have those kind of capabilities that Teams has had. So as we change the subject, a lot of people out there are not aware of deaf needs or not have deaf awareness. So let me tell you guys a really funny story that happened to me about 12, 13 years ago. It's okay to laugh about it because I think it's funny now. So my best friend's completely deaf. So we were just finding to each other and just We were just in line, just talking to each other, and we were at McDonald's. We were in line getting ready to order our food. And as we got up to the front, guess what the person gave us at the register? A menu in Braille. That's a menu in dots. A menu for blind people. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I looked at him, my best friend and I, we looked at each other like, what? What just happened? What is that? My best friend, people behind us were laughing so hard. And my best friend looked at these people and said, Nathan, he's got glasses, he can see. Oh my goodness. And the person that gave us the menu were like, didn't know what to do, didn't know, she felt really bad, felt really stupid. Well then, so my best friend and I, we just sat down with our food and said, what did just happen back there? What happened? So he texted other deaf friends of his, told them what happened. And these friends said, no big deal. It happened to them before. What? So what I'm trying to say is, because of a story like this, people at McDonald's, Starbucks, retail places, restaurants, they all need to be trained. They all need to know how to accommodate people with special needs. I was very grateful because back that time when I worked at the water park, we all did a mandatory training to tell how to help customers with special needs, how to help people with wheelchairs get in the pool, how to help communicate with deaf people effectively, how to handle situations like that. So I was very grateful that I was a part of that training when I went to the water park. It's too bad there's not a training like this everywhere. I married my wife 12 years ago, Carrie. She did not have a hearing loss. People have always asked me, what is that like to be married to a person that's not deaf? There's always a time where me and her, we will always misunderstand something, or I misunderstand her, or I misheard her. We work together, we talk about it, just to get us on the same page. My daughter Nora, she was born 8 years ago. The big question back that time was when Nora was born, is Nora going to become deaf or is she going to become hearing? When Nora took the hearing test when she was born, I was so relieved that she was not deaf. I was so happy about it. I got so emotional about it, I actually had tears roll out of my eyes. People were like asking me, why are you so emotional about that? Why did this mean so much to you? I said I did not want Nora to go through similar things that I went through my life as a deaf person. And you have no idea what it's like to be deaf, to understand the emotions that I was going through at that time. And you have no experience of having a hearing loss. And that's what happened right there. And I cannot believe right now how well technology has improved comparing to when I was born 39 years ago. People have always asked me, how well do you hear with your hearing aid and without your hearing aid? With the hearing aid on, I hear about 80 to 85% of the sound. Without the hearing aid, nothing. I hear absolutely nothing. I cannot even hear my voice when I talk without my hearing aid. And of course, I can't even tell if I'm talking loud or quiet. And it feels like I'm two different sides here, two different people of myself. The one side of me would be I'm deaf. The other side of me would be hard of hearing. I wore my first hearing aid. Excuse me. I first wore my hearing aids for 16 years. And then I moved on to new hearing aids in college. These digital hearing aids were unbelievable. I heard lots of sounds that I was not able to pick up with my old hearing aids. I heard the water running. I heard air blowing out of the air vent. I heard the fan blowing. I heard crickets chirping, birds chirping. It was a pretty cool experience, even though those sounds really don't matter. It was pretty cool to hear. And then about 5 years ago, the hearing aids I have on now have really helped me be able to communicate people with foreign accents. I was able to understand these foreign accents much better. I was able to pick up what these people were saying to me, because some of those accents are really hard to pick up. And I was able to communicate better with these people. I work with a lot of people who speak Spanish and Polish, and those accents are pretty unique to be able to speak with. And would be able to hear things 80 to 85% of the time. I still have to rely on face-to-face communication for the rest of my life. This is how I grew up. And it will always be like that for the rest of my life. If someone looked the other way, I would not be able to understand what they're saying. I would still hear what they're saying, but I don't know what they're saying. It is almost like the same idea if you turn the radio on in the car. You're going to hear the radio, but it's more like the mumble. That's what it sounds like to me. It's the same thing of talking on the telephone. If I pick up the phone or if I put my phone on speaker, it's still going to be the same way of mumbling sound. And I still I heavily rely on face-to-face communication. And thankfully, technology has improved so well and opening my options to be able to communicate by text message, email, Facebook, FaceTime, and of course, non-modern way of technology by face-to-face. So that's my whole life here. Let's move over to the subject about my faith. 12 years ago, my wife and we got married in Arlington Heights at a Lutheran church. And I had a sign language interpreter in my wedding. I loved having an interpreter in my wedding. During the first few years of our marriage, Kelly and we argued where she said we should go to church more often. I told her that I did not want to go to church. I hated going to church because I sit in church, not be able to understand anything. I did not have an interpreter to begin with. I was not picking up anything. There's been times where maybe a pastor would throw out a joke at church. People are laughing, but me, I did not like sitting in church watching people laugh, and I'm not able to laugh along because I do not understand what the joke was about or what was so funny. I hated that. And there's been a couple Sundays where I'm going home from church. I'm just so crabby. I'm just so grumpy for the whole Sunday. I'm taking it out on my wife. I'm just so crabby. And things have changed a lot when my daughter Nora got baptized. I was very grateful and blessed to have a family friend get me an interpreter and paid to have an interpreter come to the baptism. And believe it or not, that interpreter is the interpreter that you see here at Principe, Patty. And that was the beginning of a brand new deaf ministry at Arlington Heights, at Lutheran Church of the Cross. And that was an awesome way to start a deaf ministry by having Patty come 2 Sundays a month there. And it was a self-funded ministry where I did all kinds of fundraising, and people donated money to be able to help raise the cost of having an interpreter come Sunday at the church. My family and I, we transferred to Principe about 4 or 5 years ago. I think that was 2017. I had a strong vision of having a deaf ministry here at Principe. I approached Pastor Peter Helpdesk about having a deaf ministry here at Principe. Peter loved that idea, and believe it or not, it just got me so excited because Pastor Peter, he had experience with deaf ministries at previous churches that he was at before being our pastor here at Principe. I feel like I'm so happy to have Patty come to Principe 2 Sundays a month for the last 4 or 5 years. I love being a part of this church, and that I feel like I have provided lots of deaf awareness to the church. I have provided so many sign language classes to the congregation and the community throughout the last few years. Deaf ministry in general has grown into something very special to me. I'm so grateful to have the resources I have today comparing to the resources that I did not have back then growing up. I truly love going to church on Sundays, and I am always excited to come every Sunday. I love it here at Principe. I think we have a wonderful, supportive congregation with wonderful people like all of you. I think we have a wonderful pastor who is very strongly supportive of the deaf ministry and many other ministries here at Principe. Since our pastor has only been here for a few months, I'm very thankful and blessed to have a wonderful partnership in ministry with you. Thank you. I am very excited to expand our deaf ministry by having an interpreter come every single Sunday starting in January. My dream is to invite more deaf people to come to Principe on Sundays. In conclusion, as I have grown up deaf doing the hard way, my life will continue ahead with future challenges and obstacles. I am on a mission to provide deaf awareness and educate people out there with my personal deaf story that I just shared with you tonight. My mission is to show that deaf people can do anything but cannot hear. They do it the hard way. My deafness keeps my life going because I continue to prove people wrong. I continue to overcome challenges. I continue not to give up. I will not allow anyone to tell me no because you're deaf. I'm going to find ways to work around the no answer by compromising. I'm a strong believer in myself. I strongly believe that God keeps me going. That's how I continue to do the hard way for the rest of my life. Thank you.